Hello, my name is Woody. This is Change in the House of Pods, a podcast about Deftones. Today, my guest is producer, musician, all-around badass Andrew Solis. He plays guitar in the legendary LA Powerviolence band Despise You. He's not an original member. I think they've been around longer than he's been alive. He just turned 30. But you're going to love the story of how he joined the band. He's also an audio engineer, and you can tell in this conversation he's studied sound. He's around people who talk about sound. And I think you'll really appreciate the way he articulates his thoughts about the production on Deftones albums. He's a big fan of Terry Date. And while this conversation happened more than a year ago, on Valentine's Day in 2021, actually, we caught up for a few minutes recently. And you'll hear that conversation at the end of this podcast. It's super cool. He got to work on a Papa Roach song, and he talked about Deftones with Jacoby Shaddix. It was very cool. Honestly, you listen to this whole podcast, you're going to be really impressed with what Andrew's done in the past year, how his career has grown from our first conversation to now, and the music he's released. Last year, he put out a 5-song EP under the name Blood Moves Slow. This is Can the Hurt Be Unlearned? Crazy, right? You'll hear us talk about it at the end of this podcast today. He also just played a show in Austin at this sick-ass venue called The Mohawk. Despise You played right before Converge, and this was on Andrew's birthday, no less. We talk a bit about that, too. You're going to love this conversation. You'll hear Andrew talk a bit about Deftones and their influence on music today, and on him specifically. He's got some cool things to say about the self-titled and Gore, but we're going to start with how he landed a gig playing for a band he looked up to.
I joined the band when I was 23. And I used to play in a band called Deadbeat, which was just like a local LA hardcore band. Like we would play a lot of the bigger shows, like, which is weird because we only at a certain point we would only play with like the touring bands that came through, and like I feel like that was almost the downfall of the band. But also like I got to meet like a lot of cool people and like a lot of made a lot of friends doing that. So I mean I'm really grateful for it, but. I was in a band called Deadbeat, and they had just asked Deadbeat to play a couple times, and we played a show at the Roxy on Sunset with like Pig Destroyer and like Nails, and super crazy show. That was like actually like our first show where like, dude, we do not belong on this gig, but like it was cool because. It was cool because like the Pig Destroyer guys like ended up liking us, and they got their due to hit us up to open, and we played that gig. We did some shows. We did a show in Mexico with Despise You before I was in the band, and like I even did my last band prior to Deadbeat. We played our last show with Despise You, so like I just kind of got to know them over the years after just playing locally around here, and randomly one day. The vocalist Chris Elder, he had sent me. He was like texting me all this like weird, asking me all these weird questions like, "Hey man, like what's Deadbeat up to? Like what are you guys doing? You guys gonna tour? You guys gonna do this?" And I was like, "No, like no touring plans. I mean, I'd like to. At that point, I was really into like being in a band and like wanting to tour and stuff. So I was like, no, like not really, but like I'm open to it." And it's like, yeah, like, hey, do you have your passport? And I'm like, no, I don't have a passport. And I'm just like, I should probably get one though, And he's like, yeah, you should get one, man. You never know what's going to happen. And I'm like, yeah, cool. And then we just like would stop texting. And I was like, okay, that's really weird, but I thought it was cool because I love Despise You. And it was the fact that he was even like, texting me. I was like, fuck yeah, dude, this is dope. Like yeah. He likes my band and stuff, whatever. And one day Chris had texted me. He was like, hey bro, like me and Phil want to do like a 3-way call. Phil's my roommate. Actually, I live with Phil. He's not here right now, but Phil is actually my roommate now, which is like really another weird full circle thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, cool. And then I texted the dudes in Deadbeat. I was like, yo, I'm pretty sure Despise You is going to ask us to go on tour with them. And then they were like, yeah, fuck yeah. Like, like, let us know, give us the details, like, let's like let us know. And I was like, all right, cool. So I called them and I was ready. I was like ready to just like talk whatever details out. And it was just Chris was just kind of like, yeah, so Adam, who's like the old bass player, he was like, yeah, Adam's moving back to Kentucky. He's gonna go home. He wants to, do some other stuff, and we're wondering if you wanted to jam with us. And my mind just blew up, dude. I was just like, what? Because growing up in high school, I was a huge Despise You fan, dude. Like a huge Despise You fan. Like I grew up listening to like a lot of like, not so much like hardcore like stuff in the sense of like, I don't know, like Hate Breed or something like that. But I was more into like Powerviolence and grindcore and like some death metal and punk stuff. Like I grew up listening to like, a lot of like bands like Crossed Out and like No Comment and Despise You. And those are all like West Coast Powerviolence bands. Like Powerviolence was like a West Coast thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I grew up listening to that and I was like, holy shit, dude. Like how did I end up listening to Despise You when I was, 13, 12, 13, 14, whatever. And then like 10 years later, they're asking me to jam with them. You know what I mean?
That's insane.
Yeah, it was bizarre. And like to this day, I'm still like, I don't know how like I ended up in that position, you know what I mean? But yeah, man, they just asked me to jam with them. I jammed with them a couple times. And uh, by like the third jam, Chris was like, so what's up, dude? You want to be in the band? And I was like, fuck yeah, dude. And they had like all the stuff planned. Like my first show was like a huge fest in Tucson, Arizona. Got flown out. Like I never experienced that before. A week later, my first tour was Japan with them.
Wow.
And did 8 shows in Japan and like central Japan, like the central part and like the southern part. And yeah, man, they've taken me all over the place, and I'm super grateful for them for like asking me to be a part of it.
How long has it been now?
I'm 28 now, so I've been in the band since 2016, so like about like 5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you remember those first jam sessions, like those first 3 times that you were in there playing with them?
Yeah, it was weird because okay, so I don't know if you've ever heard Despise You or like listened to like any of like the older catalog, but like they have the West Side Horizons compilation, which is like a lot of their older recordings, and it's like splits, 7 inches and stuff like that. And a lot of those recordings are really really bad. Like they're like very like inaudible, you know what I mean? And it's not like a knock to them, because I think the recording is like the best part about it because it gives it that vibe, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But when they were like, yeah, like here's our set list, like check it out, and I'm like, all right, cool. So I went on my Spotify, made a playlist, and I'm like, holy shit, dude, like I don't know how I'm gonna learn any of this. So they gave me a list of songs, and what I had to end up doing is I had to end up going on YouTube and watching live videos of them and like just figuring it out. And
Wow, really?
yeah,
Wow.
yeah, and they like the set list was long. I mean, the songs are only like 30 seconds long,
Yeah.
but like the set list was long, it's half an hour's and we're playing like 30 something songs or something. And
That's
I
crazy.
yeah, I ended up learning like 20 of the songs, and like 15 of those are like, yeah, we're not gonna play those, so here's a new set list. And they taught me like a bunch they taught me like a bunch of other songs, but it was cool as hell. Like I came and jammed, and like when I was jamming with them, they were like, damn dude, like you actually like got it. And I was like, yeah, like I'm I'm down. And the first few times were really really weird. And then but by the third, oh shit, I'm sorry, dude. By the third time, when he asked me to be in the band, I was like, damn, I can't believe everything's led up to this fucking moment.
Yeah.
Really
Yeah.
bizarre, really
Do you
bizarre stuff.
remember what it was? Because you said you were like 13, you were listening to Powerviolence, which
Yeah.
is like a pretty specifically regional thing. Were you going to shows, or were like how did you come to like listen to Despise You and those other bands?
Well, so my buddy I've been friends with this guy since middle school. Like we don't really talk much anymore, but me and him, we were, I don't know if you remember Soulseek, where you were just like you would just download music and stuff.
I don't remember So Sick. Nah.
For the record, I for record purposes, I did not download anything.
I
But
didn't hear that you did.
but we're like, we're going on YouTube and just finding bands, and we'll hear a song that we like and we'll go on Soulseek and see if we can find more music, download it, and then some of the first stuff was like Infest, Charles Bronson, Spaz. That was like, that's like almost like the like Black Flag, Circle Jerks of like Power Violence type thing. You know what I mean? No knock to any of that stuff, but like that was like, the stuff that you first hear when you're getting into like fast hardcore, which is essentially what Power Violence is.
Yeah.
And uh yeah, like that's literally how I just fell into it, just downloading music, going on YouTube, just going down the rabbit hole of just finding all this music as a young kid and just my mind just being blown. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you listening to, because that's pretty heavy music to listen to, I think, at 13. Like, were you listening to anything like that led you up to that point, or was it like always as heavy as it gets from the get-go?
Well, no. So when I first started getting into heavy music, it was like stuff like Korn. Like I'm at like before like all like the Power Violence stuff, I'm a new metal guy. You know what I mean? Like I grew up
Okay.
listening to like Korn, System of a Down. Like System of a Down's like, besides Deftones, is like my all-time favorite band. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I absolutely love that band. And System of a Down like changed my life. Like when I first heard it, I was like, God damn, how does a band go from like, you know, and then to like an acoustic, like part
Right.
with like with like strings behind it? Like it blew my mind, dude. And I was like, holy shit, dude, like I've never heard anything like this before. And I think that's why I like Deftones so much too, is because they have that contrast of heaviness, and then they have songs like Be Quiet and Drive, and like like Sex Tape, where they just they can be heavy as fuck when they really want to, but they have like those really sexy songs that are just like undeniable. But I was listening to System of a Down, like Cold Chamber, Korn, Limp Bizkit, stuff like that. But I will say, when I first heard Deftones and I was in like third grade, I really didn't like it.
Really?
Yeah, which is so weird because like uh I think it took me a little bit to understand it. It took me like maybe until high school. Like I was like, oh, okay, I get it. Because when I first heard Deftones, I saw the music video for Minerva, and I think it was a couple years after Self-Titled had come out. So I don't know if you know what Fuse TV is, right? The music channel.
Yeah.
So before Fuse, it was called MMUSA, and they had like, it was essentially the same exact thing. And it was when I first got cable as a kid, uh and they had that channel, and I was like, dude, this is like all the alt music is on here. They had a channel called like Uranium, where they played like stuff like Sworn Enemy and like Hatebreed and like
Yeah.
Korn, like they're playing all the hard stuff. And I was like, god damn, dude. And I would have never heard any of that stuff if I didn't have that. And they had like almost like an alt, like a chant, or like a show or something, kind of like a Uranium, but for like more like alt music, I guess. And Minerva came on, and I was like, damn, what is this? Like it's like in the desert, and I was like, what is this? And I heard the music, and it's like the big open chords, and I was like, damn, this is sick. And then the vocals came in, and I was like, kind of like I was kind of taken back as a kid. You know what I mean? As a kid,
Yeah.
I was like, man, what the heck is this? Like this guy has the weirdest voice. And I was like, nah, don't like it. Like it lost me. And then from and then 10 years later, I think like Diamond Eyes had like coming out. I had like come out, and I remember being like, god damn, dude, what the hell? Like I do not remember Deftones sounding like this. And then once Diamond Eyes came out, I went back and listened to everything, and then
Yeah.
my whole perspective on the band changed, and I was like, I totally get it now.
Do you remember what it was from Diamond Eyes
That
that turned you around?
Yeah, so I was really into like heavier, like hardcore stuff, and it was just the down, 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 down,
Yeah.
down, that riff, and I was like, holy shit! And then when I got to the ending part where it just breaks down really hard, I was like, damn, dude, I do not remember this band sounding like this at
Yeah.
all. And then I just revisited everything, and then I realized how much their sound really affects the music that I listen to now, and at that point as well. You know what I mean? Like a lot of like hardcore stuff and like deathcore stuff.
What do you mean? Talk about that.
Um, it's just like the really low chuggy breakdown type things, because they're not really, Deftones never really does breakdowns, but they have that groove. And a lot of bands nowadays really do that. Like they'll have a groove with a heavy riff, and it's just kind of crazy to see how much a lot of like even like new metal in general, not calling Deftones a new metal band because I think they're an anomaly from all that, but like how new metal really affects a lot of hardcore stuff nowadays, you know. It really, you can hear the influence in a lot, because I'm sure a lot of kids that are in bands nowadays are all products of the new metal generation, you know, Slipknot and all that stuff, you know.
Yeah, yeah. It's been interesting to me, and it's really cool that you bring that up, because I've been talking to, by coincidence or by design, I don't know which, but I've been talking to a lot of folks in the hardcore and metalcore uh, communities, and they're the ones who are like the Deftones fans. Like, it's
Yeah.
really, I don't know if I should be surprised, or if like what you're saying makes perfect sense, because new metal was banging, and you were kids, and that's how it happens, right? That's how you get interested. When did you start playing music though?
I was 9 when I picked up the guitar. Yeah, I
Wow.
was pretty young. My
So
dad
you were
played.
already well, like playing music when you were listening, like when you were being introduced to Deftones.
Yeah, so I was already a music snob. So that's
Yeah,
why that's why
that's informative. That's really informative. I feel like that's what's up. So yeah, your
yeah,
dad got you into playing?
yeah, from a really young age I started listening to music a lot differently. Like I started listening to song structure and stuff like that at a very very young age. My dad was he well I don't really talk to my dad anymore nowadays, but my dad was a musician. Like my dad toured and stuff. My dad played in a really popular like reggae band, and he used to take me to a lot of his shows, and a lot of his shows were pretty cool, man. Like, I mean, I'm not a reggae guy now. My mom is a. I grew up listening to a lot of reggae because both my parents were just so into it, you know.
That's
And
dope.
yeah, my dad played with. I don't know if you know who Ika Mouse is.
Yeah.
Yeah, my dad was part of his backing band for like 10 years when I was a kid.
Wow.
Yeah, so I was going to a lot of like Ika Mouse shows, and like prior to that, my dad was also playing into like jazz bands and like just kind of like jam bands. Like he would go, so someone would call him and just ask him if he wanted to come jam, and he would come jam and shit like that, you
Oh,
know.
how cool.
So like from a very very early age, I was just surrounded by music and stuff. So when I was 9, I was playing baseball up until I was 9, and I asked my dad if he can get me a guitar, and I got a guitar, and ever since then, I literally taught myself how to play everything.
Wow, really?
Yeah, like I took lessons for maybe like a week or two. It felt like a lifetime when I was a kid, but it was, it was like
That's
a
so
week or two.
relatable.
Yeah, man. I mean, like when you're a kid, like the chunks of time are they're small, but you're only alive for 8 years, so that small chunk of time feels like forever, you know.
Mm.
So like it felt like forever. Took lessons for like 2 weeks, and I was learning songs like Happy Birthday and like Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. And I was
No,
like,
get me out of here.
man, this sucks, dude. And I told my dad, I was like, I don't want to do that. Like, I kind of just want to learn how to play System of a Down songs, you know? And he was like, well, I don't know. You can ask them. And I would ask them if they could teach me System of a Down songs. And they were so like, oh, we can't do that here. And I just kind of stopped taking lessons, and I learned how to like drop tune my guitar on my own, and
Damn.
like just kind of listen to like albums and would just figure them out.
So what all do you play?
I'm mainly a guitar player, but I can kind of do everything. Like I can play drums. Like my dad was a drummer, like I said. So there was a drum set at the house, and I would just kind of just play and learn how to do it. And I remember like the first song I learned on drums was Youth of the Nation by POD.
Fucking great drum song. Wow, what a
Yeah,
cool
dude.
drum song. Do, 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 do. Yeah, dude,
Yeah,
that's a
dude.
dope song to learn.
Yeah, and I remember at that point I was like, oh, that's how you play drums, is you have to kind of use your limbs in this weird way that don't, like, whatever your limbs are telling you to do, don't do it, and do like the opposite, you know. Like that's how I thought of it. I was like, okay, like, yeah. So that was like, but I play like, I can play like piano, you know, like guitar is essentially like an evolution of the piano. So I mean, it's pretty easy to like figure stuff out on there, you know. But yeah, I can kind of just play like everything. If I really tried, I can pick something up and try it.
That's so sick. And you do recording or engineering as well?
Yeah, I'm a very very amateur audio engineer. like I'm not a professional by any means, but I do like record my friends' bands like for free or for like really cheap, stuff like that. I even have a Deftones influence project that I've worked on over the last couple of years that I
Wait a
haven't.
minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. You do? So yeah, all right. Tell me about it. What is it?
It's oh, man, I don't
You
even
haven't put any music out yet? Is that what you're
no.
about to say?
Yeah,
All right.
I haven't put anything out, but I have like 4 tracks that are just demoed out, recorded that I don't know what I'm gonna do with yet. But Deftones and Glassjaw were kind of like my main influence writing those songs, you know. But yeah, I do have like a little like project that I've been working
So
on for the last
what
couple
are
of
you
years.
doing on that project? Are you playing guitar? Are you playing all the instruments? Are you singing? What are you doing on it?
I'm doing everything. Like I mean I don't have a place to record drums in my house. I mean my roommate has a studio in the back, but I don't ask him to use it because it's not mine. But I program all my own drums with like real drum samples and stuff. And I think programming drums is really fun. So, and like I'm making them sound real is like the funnest part. So I just kind of did everything on my own. And like I wrote all the songs during the pandemic of, you know, like the first initial lockdown. I was just up, yeah,
Wow.
up for like 2 weeks, just not doing anything, just stuck in my room, just recording music, and just did it. Yeah.
So what was it that you were like, let me just do this Deftones influenced?
Um, you know, I've been playing hardcore and, you know, faster music for a lot of my life. You know, ever since I was 18, I was just playing in hardcore bands and, you know, death metal bands, Powerviolence bands, grindcore bands. Like I've been doing that, and I'm at that point in my life where like, okay, like I kind of want to change it up, you know, like I need to like maybe take a step back and really take a look at what I really like, you know. Not saying I don't like any like power violence stuff, but you know, I'm more of a new metal kid, and or like just like a person that likes music with a lot of substance and like really dense, you know, productions and stuff like that. I was like, what can I do? So I just randomly thought like, hey, I can try writing music like Deftones or like Glassjaw, you know what I mean? Because I love those bands, and like some of those like Justin Beck and Stephen Carpenter and like all those guys are like and Glassjaw and Deftones are like some of my favorite songwriters, and you know, and some of the craziest like compositions I've ever heard. So I was just like, I just try, I can give it a shot. And I did it, and I was pretty like stoked on like what came out, but I still have no idea what I'm gonna do with it.
Have you shared it with anybody?
Not many people. I mean, I'll probably send it to you after if you want
Dude, I hope you
to.
will. If you will, I would love that. I would love to hear what you're doing because that's dope as hell. Anytime anybody's creating music that that shares that influence, and I don't care if it's Deftones or if it's anybody that you know that I'm into, I'm always into hearing what artists are doing because you know I love music. I think that's part of what this whole project has been about is connecting the dots because everything you listen to influences what you do, but you get to choose like what the influences are that sort of motivate you or that your output, you know what I mean? And for
Yeah.
you to like actively choose Deftones and be like, all right, let me do some things that are based on Deftones and Glassjaw and these things that it sounds like sort of accelerated your interest in music. I
Yeah,
think is
absolutely.
really especially cool. That's really, really cool.
Yeah. I mean, I was during the initial lockdown of the pandemic last March, I had revisited White Pony, and I was listening to it on repeat. Like I was going through like this weird like part of my life where I was kind of going through a breakup, but I wasn't going through a breakup, and like we're just kind of on the rocks. We like I like it was one of those, I don't know if we're meant to be together. And I think she also realized that as well. So it was a really strange time. And then the pandemic hit, and you know, my job, you know, kind of just went away out of nowhere. And, you know, all the band stuff stopped. And it kind of like put me in a weird position where I just kind of had to like sit with myself and just realize what's going on. So, you know, I listened to White Pony a lot, and I was listening to Worship and Tribute by Glassjaw a lot. And I was just on repeat the entire time, just kind of just like wallowing in in like the sadness, you know what I mean? But
There's comfort in the sadness as well, though, right? Like that's
yeah,
why we keep going back to it. Is there's comfort in that sadness.
yeah, I mean, like I think we're all like kind of conditioned to go back to like those negative feelings and just kind of want to sit in them for a little bit, you know what I mean? I think everyone, it might be healthy for some people, but some people might not.
It gets you used to it, I think, a little bit. But I totally relate to that experience. I think that's how this podcast got started. You know what I mean? It's like I
Yeah,
didn't have the space to consume any other music. I had to retreat to sort of what I knew.
yeah.
And what I know more than anything else is Deftones. It was
Mhm.
easy to either it can be wallpaper and you don't notice it, and that can be comforting, or it can be completely consuming and you can dive all the way in it, and that can be comfort. And White Pony in particular, I think, provides the the whole like range, the full range of emotion, because
Oh yeah,
it's got the whole spectrum, right? Like
yeah, yeah.
it's really neat.
Anytime Knife Party hits, dude, I can feel like my chest starting to cave in, and like I feel like I'm going to cry. I'm like, oh god, here he comes, dude. You know?
So you were like a teenager when you came back to Deftones. Initially, when you first checked them, it was the Minerva video, and then like 10 years later or so, Diamond Eyes comes around, and the super gent Steph Carpenter decided to like hook you in. And then what? Like how does what kind of fandom did you get into? Like what happened for you with your experience of Deftones from that point?
Well, I feel at that point, like I said, I was definitely into a little more like deathcore-ish type stuff. Like a lot of my friends that I was around were around like deathcore and like the gent stuff. So once Diamond Eyes, once I heard Diamond Eyes and I started listening to that album more and more, made me like see like, oh, like, you know, Stephen Carpenter he's the metal guy of the band. You know what I mean? And when you hear those like down dun dun, you can tell that that's his like part in it. You know what I mean? And then like, and it just made me realize that there's that so many, like all five of them are just like this weird random group of people that just kind of came up with this thing. And then it made me kind of look at bands a little bit differently too, because bands were kind of changing. Like the dynamic of bands has really changed a lot. And I was talking to somebody about this the other day, where not like everyone is kind of the same person in bands nowadays, I guess. And maybe I'm generalizing, but a lot of people kind of just want to sound like something, whereas in back then, you had someone like Chino, who was into like Depeche Mode and The Cure and stuff, and then you have like Stefan, he's into like metal and stuff, and then you got like Abe, who's like a crazy pocket musician drummer. And like, it's just like this like random, it's almost like a random group of people coming together and creating something completely new. Same
Yeah.
thing with bands like System of a Down, where Serge he's not a metal guy per se, but like Darren, he's like the metal guy. And like, like Shavo was like a hip hop dude. You know what I mean? Like it's just like these weird groups of people. And like, I just feel like it made me kind of like look back in retrospect and see how like the dynamic of bands like really has changed, because the music is like so original and its own thing. Like I don't think I'd ever call Deftones a new metal band, even though they are lumped into that genre. But Deftones is just Deftones to me. Same thing with like I could say that for like other bands as well that
Yeah.
have their own sound, but Deftones is just Deftones to me. And Diamond Eyes really made me see how dynamic they really were, because I had never listened to much Deftones prior to that, besides listening to Minerva.
And then you
So,
went back.
and then I went back. Yeah. Then I listened to Self-Titled, then heard Hexagram, and heard that like voice crack in Hexagram, where it just sounds like he's hurting himself, and just being like, oh man, dude, he hurt himself. It sounds like he's hurting himself.
Man, how great is the Self-Titled? God, I
Dude,
love that album, bro. I
yeah,
love that album so much.
I think it's a pretty underrated Deftones album, in my opinion. Like it's very like I like it better than White Pony.
Yeah.
And yeah, I
It feels
there's
like a bold thing to say that, but I totally relate to it. And even though there are amazing songs on White Pony, and songs that I love as much as anything else in the catalog, it still feels a little bit bold saying something like that, doesn't it?
yeah, just because White Pony's like their like, career masterpiece, I guess I would
The
call it.
magnum opus or whatever.
Yeah, like if anyone's gonna listen to Deftones, someone's gonna be like, hey, you should listen to White Pony first. You
Right.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I feel like the Self-Titled was very like honed in on what they were trying to do on White Pony. Like White Pony, like they definitely like did some other stuff that they were doing compared to like Around the Fur. But when the self-title came, like they were just doing like, it sounds to me that they were doing like way more songwriting stuff, where like the song structure was like a little more like pop-ish, I guess. I'm not really sure if that's the right thing to say, but like, you know, like it just sounds a little like way more focused on the self-titled than it did on White Pony.
I
You
feel
know?
that. It always to me, I describe it as the hip hop album, but it's not
Yeah,
hip hop at all. You know what I mean? Because
yeah.
it's not like he raps. There's not a bar rapped on the whole album, but
Hmm.
it feels very hip hop to me. But I think that might be to your point, is that it's actually just popular music. It's the
Yeah.
songwriting is a pop format, and it happens to be that popular music anymore is hip hop,
Hmm.
and that's probably what it lends to, that and the groove and all the other things that we know about Deftones. But it always feels a little weird to say that that's a hip hop album when there isn't, in fact, like a single like bar spit. I think that you're right. It's the songwriting, it's the song structure,
Yeah.
it's the way that the songwriting has. It's very succinct, and like um, the format is very purposeful. It's very efficient, and it's
Yeah.
weird because they were like, they describe it as the dark times or the dark period or whatever, the dark
Hmm.
years. So it's weird that they would be so efficient or so calculated at that time.
Yeah.
It's really cool to hear you too also jump back to the self-titled as the first album that you referenced in going backwards, as
Hmm.
opposed to sequentially would have been Saturday Night Wrist at that time. That would have been the last release. Did that hit with you? Did you hit with Saturday Night Wrist?
Saturday Night Wrist was kind of weird to me. I like it. I think it sounds. I think the production. Honestly, all production on all the Deftones albums, they all live in their own space, you know, and they all sound amazing. But Saturday Night Wrist was definitely one of those albums that didn't hit as hard for me than like White Pony, Around the Fur, like self-titled did, you know. Uh, but the
Also
reason why
interesting because you have Surge on that album too, which is interesting because that's your other band. Systems on the record, and then how,
and
how did
it's
that song feel hit with you?
that song is weird as hell, man. Like it's cool, you know, like I understand, like, yeah, like they're like it just
Dude, when
they're
Surge comes on, it stops the song for me. It does.
it's
That's like
just
the only one in the catalog that I can point to, apart from Simple Man, just because I don't like that song. But
it's it I think Chino's voice and like Surge's voice, they're very, very strong personalities. So
mm,
when I hear both of them, it's almost like it just doesn't like it just doesn't really hit as hard for me. I'm not
have you
saying it's like bad by any means, but you know.
have you ever seen like any of the videos of them performing together on YouTube though? Like any of the live shows that they've done where like Chino will do a System song or
Yeah.
vice versa? Like those fucking crack, right? Like those are
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, I
and yet
saw
Lian or whatever is like,
there's
all right.
a video of Chino like doing Toxicity with System of a Down, and I
Yeah.
thought it was so sick, dude, because it's just like the best of both worlds, like one of my favorite bands and like my all-time favorite band, just like on stage killing it. And it's like when the chorus comes in, this that like really high pitch like Chino scream comes in, and it just sounds dope, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
I just think like those sort of things are kind of just like a moment in time where like you kind of have to be there to really feel
Mm.
it and experience it. And like in a recorded format, maybe it just like hits a little bit differently. I'm not sure. I probably sound very like weird saying that, but like Saturday Night Wrist as a whole was just a very like odd album for me to get into. But like from also what I've heard is Saturday Night Wrist was a weird album for them as well, you know. So like
Right.
I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but uh like the reason that I even went back to self-titled before Saturday Night Wrist is because when I was a kid, I heard Minerva, and then I wanted to go back and be like, I want to go back and hear Minerva again, you know, and to see how I feel
Yeah.
about it. Listen to it, and I was like, God damn, this is such a badass tune. And then listen to the entire album, and then that became like the second Deftones album that I really got into besides Diamond Eyes, you know. So I kind of went
Wow.
backwards. I went like
That's so
Diamond
dope.
Eyes. Yeah, I kind of went Diamond Eyes, self-titled, and then like White Pony, Around the Fur, and then Adrenaline, you know.
Oh man, that's so cool. Up to Ohms, I probably would have said that's the order of my favorite albums too. Like Diamond Eyes, self-titled. they could all on a given day though. It's like whatever,
Mhm.
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's mishmash.
yeah,
But it's cool also to hear you talk about the recordings and like the production. The band themselves shit on the production of Adrenaline. I think it's sort of that moment in time, kind of like you're
yeah.
speaking to, like 95. It was, you know what I mean? It was their first album, and
Mhm.
um, that doesn't get in the way for you at all. It sounds
No, I mean, I understand because I have recordings where I'm like, dude, I hate this, like from way back, but there's like that outside perspective where you're like, no, dude, like you have to understand like there's a vibe to that, and it's
mm,
not necessary because it's like not theoretically perfect doesn't mean that it's necessarily bad either, you know what I mean? So, but I think all Deftones production is like all so great to me, dude. Like some of like the stuff that dude, Terry Date is the best, dude. Like he did such a badass job on like Ohms and like White Pony and the self-titled, that like Abe snare, dude, man. And like oh man, I love Terry Date so much.
everybody. So here's the thing that is interesting to me. Fans, casual fans, passionate fans, people who've never played an instrument or are familiar with reading a piece of music. They will talk about Terry Date and his impact on the band, and how wonderful it is when they hear that Terry Date is going to produce an album. So, like, tell me what it is that you think that Terry Date's bringing to the table, or if it's helpful maybe to compare it to which one did Nick Rascalunas did? He did Diamond Eyes, didn't he?
He did Diamond Eyes. I don't think he did Gore, but I think Nick did Diamond Eyes. I think he did Saturday Night Wrist as well.
And then there's a few different people who worked on Saturday Night Wrist. It was like Sean from Far did some of it.
Oh, okay. No, no.
Process
Nick.
now, and then the Bob Ezrin, I think, is the other
Yeah,
producer on the Saturday Night Wrist.
Nick did. He did Koi. He did Koi, and he also did like the Diamond Eyes and stuff. But I don't know, man. Terry Date, he's just like a really great producer, and like he's like amazing at mixing. Like I love listening to a recording and having like a sense of space. Like I like
Mm.
being able to listen to the drums and hear it in a room, like, and hearing that mesh with the guitars and like the bass, the vocals, and hearing the vocals kind of like in that same room. You know what I mean? Like I love having that sense of space, and I think Terry Day is really good at blending all of that and gluing all of that together. Because I listen to like White Pony, and then I'll listen to Self-Titled, and even like Ohms, and all those recordings are just like top tier, like mixing and producing, and like everything he does is just like very focused, super clean. And when it needs to be dirty, it's dirty. When it needs to be clean, it's clean. It's like perfect, man. Terry Day is a fucking great audio engineer. He's done I think he did like one of the last Slayer albums. He's done like Pantera and
Yeah,
stuff
he's a
like that.
Pantera, like Soundgarden. He's not like everybody.
Soundgarden, yeah.
Yeah, he's like, if you want a metal record, he's probably the first on the list, I think.
Yeah, he's the man.
Yeah,
But
it's really interesting to hear your take on it, like, and the way that you're describing it, like the way you experience sound as somebody who is, who is recording others, I think
mhm.
is unique, and I'm definitely curious to hear your take on Gore and
Oh,
that production.
dude, Gore, I think, is also a really underrated album too, because I wasn't a huge fan of it as well when I first initially heard it, but like listening to it a few times, it's a very interesting Deftones album. Like it's because Chino's got this, like it sounds like they're in like like a weird room together. Like there's like echo and like delay on a lot of the stuff. And there's also like a really very, very different like way of them writing songs on that album as well. There's like a weird like 90s emo thing going on, like a really like almost like a Sunny Day Real Estate type thing going on some of
Okay.
the songs. But then they have, the they have like the heavy riffs, and that album is like a like it just sounds really aggressive as far as the production goes, because when they do something aggressive, it just I feel like it hits a little harder on that album. Like some of the stuff just sounds really abrasive and like dirty, but then when it goes to the clean stuff, it just sounds like really spacey, because there's that huge sense of space in that album. Like that album sounds really huge to me. I don't know who did that album. I didn't look into that.
Right. No way,
yeah.
I can't. It's behind glass. I can't do it. I'm really excited to hear you say that and explain it that way, because the theory that I've always had, and who knows if it's true, is that it's meant to sound like they're performing live. Like it sounds like hearing the band, capturing the band at a festival with 20,000 people, but recorded in a studio. There is that, like you said, that delay, and it's got sort of this weird reverb that you can't, it doesn't sound like it's confined to a tight space. It sounds like it's really big, and it sounds like it's in an open space.
Yeah, like I feel like you can usually put like a producer's production into its own like little universe, but Gore, whoever did that album definitely lives in its own universe, because there's no other Deftones album that sounds like that. It's like its own unique thing that I think it's a fantastic freaking album, dude. It's so good. I like that album a lot.
I really like it a lot too. I really like the era of the band around 2016, and like the things that they were doing live, and like the whole aesthetic experience of Deftones, from the album itself and the art to just like the guys. They were really, it seemed like there was a happy like time. They were, distanced from a lot of trauma, and were just enjoying being at the peak. Although it does come with the caveat of Steph's quote unquote absence from the writing process. The band defends it all the time. I am aware that like he wrote, Steph basically wrote Phantom Bride. I think he wrote like maybe Hearts and Wires. He has a heavier hand than I think most fans lend credit to the album. But do you feel that his especially as a guitar player, his, I don't know, being sparsely used or not as like heavily, not as prevalent in the album, do you feel like that takes away at all?
No, because I feel like everything, there's a reason for everything. Like everything kind of serves a purpose, you know what I mean? Like there's a part of something that, in a band, in a song, if there's a part that calls for a drum fill, then you're gonna do that. But if you're like, there's a riff, and there's like vocals going over that riff, and then there's like a drummer just kind of doing some like crazy fill over it, it serves like no purpose, you know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
So like I think it's just a different way of them writing songs, you know what I mean? It's just something different that they did, and I think it worked out in a different way. But I don't think it really took away from Deftones necessarily. Like I think when Stefan did his part, it served a purpose, you know what I mean? Like when you know that was like a Stefan riff, you know that it served that part. But you also have to keep in mind that album as a whole is like its own thing. So, if there's like a weird, crazy sample part, then like that's going to breathe a little bit more. I mean, it's a very spacey album. Like Sergio was using, I think he used like a 6-string bass on a lot of those songs too. Like
no shit.
Yeah, he was doing like at the beginning of Hearts and Wires, like the little lead guitar part that leads in right before the little like side stick thing that Abe does. That's a 6-string bass, not a guitar. So like there's like a lot of weird stuff going on in that album. So I don't think Stefan really taking a step back really takes away from that at all. I just think it's a whole new thing that they just did, and it came out the way it was. And then, that's when you just take it and move on,
Yeah, no doubt. I feel that entirely. A, because I love the album and I think it's great, and B, like, Sergio, my understanding is that Sergio and Chino were like maybe the primary songwriters for the album, and Sergio Vega is pretty fucking good at making music. So like, I'm think cool with that.
He played in Quicksand. Right?
He was in this there was a band, they were called Quicksand. They were sort of important.
Yeah, like a lot of people really like that band, but I mean I didn't hear about Quicksand until I heard about Sergio joining Deftones. Like there was like,
Word.
oh, Sergio from Quicksand, and I was like, who's Quicksand? And then everyone kind of likes Quicksand now. Like I think they're more like hardcore adjacent, I think.
Yeah, Post
Um
I think is
yeah,
like, yeah.
yeah, but no man, Gore is a freaking awesome album. You were telling me that you had a Gore like tour story, or like you had an interesting encounter with them.
Yeah, so the story, uh I actually got to tell it on a podcast not too long ago, the Musically Meditative podcast with Joe Riley. I got to meet the band. So it was a stormy day in August. It was Metallica week at the radio station. Metallica was going to open the US Bank Stadium that Friday. So everybody was geeked on Metallica that week. They had just premiered, like debut live premiered Hardwired to Self-Destruct on the radio station. Never played it before for anybody, and they played it on our radio station. So it was like Metallica was the buzz and everything. But meanwhile, Deftones were playing that Tuesday at a club in a suburb of St. Paul. And Chino came to the radio station, and I got to kick it with Chino for a little bit. And then that night it was super stormy. It was this weird, like bizarre, golden, like uniquely like surreal storm that came through. So like none of the fans or listeners who won meet and greet tickets like showed up. There was like maybe 3 people who came to the meet and greet. Of course, me and my buddy made it out there because it's Deftones, and I'm gonna go to the show. I'm gonna go meet my band to get my picture.
Yeah.
And because I had got some one-on-one time with Chino at the end of the day, he definitely remembered me. It was 6 hours previously that he was kicking it with me. So we wait for everybody else to take the pictures. We take our pictures, and we're going through shaking hands first. And Chino, because of the rain, he must have been outside or whatever. He was wearing this navy blue windbreaker. It was a Gore windbreaker. It had like some Gore type logo on the back or whatever. I think it's probably still in their web store. He was wearing a Deftones windbreaker. And I had seen it at the merch table because we peeped the merch table before we went upstairs to go do the meet and greet. And I was like, yo, you caught my jacket, Chino, that's what's up or whatever, so we take the picture or whatever, and I'm walking away, and he's like, yo, Wood. And I turn around, and he takes the jacket off of his back, and he gives me the jacket.
Dude, that's so cool.
He's like, here you go, bro. And I'm like, buddy, that's hero shit. I'm like,
Dude.
that's hero shit. Like I get goosebumps thinking about it now. It was the coolest thing ever. And
damn, that's so freaking cool.
Yeah, it was. And then they put on like the most bananas show. I mean, they're all fucking insane, but it was such a great show. I think they've got a lot of ties in Minneapolis and people that they know because they've been here. Like they have every other city. They've been here a bajillion times. Speaking of which, have you seen them live? Have you seen Deftones live?
Dude, I had tickets to see them with Deftones. Oh, it was Gojira and Poppy, the last tour. And then the Rona hit, dude. I also had tickets to see System of a Down that summer too. So I don't know what's going on with that, man. Like I know that there's like you can get the refund or you can just wait until it's rescheduled, but I didn't even like bother to get the refund. I was just like, yeah, I'll just wait, but who knows, man. But no, I haven't seen them. I have yet to see them. And
man.
I'm kind of kicking my ass for not seeing them in like anytime sooner because I always loved that band, but yeah, I haven't seen them, man.
Yeah, it's a singular experience. I mean, always the most active crowds, but probably pretty tame. Like the Deftones crowd is still pretty tame to like a fucking Powerviolence show, I would imagine. Like
yeah, man. Hardcore and Powerviolence kind of ruined shows for me, to be honest. Like because those shows, there's kids jumping all over the place, you know what I mean? And then you go to like see, Deftones or System of a Down or something, and everyone's just kind of standing there and just kind of shaking their head, and this is kind of like, come on guys, like like where's the energy, but then you have to understand there's always just going to be a certain point where any live band's just going to hit that point, like it's the shows aren't going to be as crazy and then also like the bands get older and they're not putting off as much energy as they used to when they were younger, which is also totally understandable. Like I wish I would have saw System of a Down or Deftones or like Glassjaw in like the 90s because that was like peak them like jumping off their cabs and like almost like breaking their necks and stuff, like I wish I would have seen all that stuff, but I'm also like I didn't start going to shows until 2007 or 8. So yeah, man.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you age out of it just like a band does. There's a certain point where you're like, you know what, I can't go home with contusions today.
Oh yeah.
I gotta just enjoy the music, and there's a place for that too. And the way that they've adapted their live show is, I mean, it's still active, and Chino still gets right in your face. Although I wonder too, like how that's gonna change in this COVID and hopefully post COVID
Yeah,
world,
man.
like that,
Yeah.
like him being right in your grill and bands being right in your grill, like
It's gonna take a while for people to trust anybody, you know,
yeah,
like before, you know, the next show happens. Like, I mean, there's still shows happening, and like people are getting mad because it's like, why would you have a show during a pandemic? You know, like even if you wore a mask, like if you're around like even 50 people, like all 50 people are just completely at risk, you know. So I mean, I think it's gonna take a long time for people to like trust anybody to want to be around any crowds, you know.
yeah,
It sucks, but also like this whole like pandemic thing has made me realize a lot of stuff about what I want in life. And you know, I'm sure everyone else, I mean, I hope everyone else kind of has that same realization to like kind of figure out a way to adapt and move forward, you know.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think depending on how the pandemic has impacted you, there's everybody's going to take something away different, and that's the other thing that's really bizarre to me. And thinking about all of this is nobody really is going to be able to relate to your pandemic experience. You know what I mean? Like, because everybody's been locked inside their own house for the
Yeah.
most part. You know what I mean? And so, who the fuck knows? Like, you can't even go check on your neighbor. You can try in certain ways, but shit, who's checking on you? I don't know. There's a lot going on. It's going to be. I think it'll be very therapeutic, and a lot of tears will be shed when live shows return and people are able to reconvene and get back together. It's going to be a heavy time. It's gonna continue to be a heavy time.
Yeah.
So entering into this pandemic, being so impacted by Deftones, and then they drop an album.
Yeah.
And they drop Ohms. So what was that like for you? Learning that they were putting out the album, that it was coming, you had been doing this music that was inspired by them. You've been banging White Pony. What was the Ohms release like? And then obviously the experience of hearing the songs.
It was super exciting when I first heard the first single, Ohms. I was pretty pumped, dude, because it's just like, I don't know, it was like a perfect time because I was already like so deep into like, you know, the pandemic hit. I'm listening to White Pony and I'm like revisiting everything, and I'm like falling in love with this band. And it's almost like the universe was like, oh shit, like this dude, he's falling in love with this again, like let's drop a bomb on him. And then, you know, they're like, hey, we're, you know, because I think first they had announced that they're doing Black Stallion, they're doing that whole thing, and then they dropped Ohms before they dropped Black Stallion. So it was really badass to hear them coming out with just like new music in general. And like I was pumped, dude. Like even my girlfriend's a huge Deftones fan as well.
Yeah.
And she like bought the vinyl and bought all the merch and stuff. Like I was broke as hell at the time, so I wasn't about to buy all that. But yeah, man, it was really exciting. Like I really enjoyed Ohms a lot. And like, I'm still listening to it and like, you know, understanding it a little bit better, because it is also like a very like I think Deftones is more focused on what they sound like than ever, I think. And this album is definitely like Deftones. Like this is it. This is what Deftones sounds like now, you know. So I'm still listening to it more and more, and like understanding it differently, and like listening to what they're doing differently than what they did on the other albums and stuff. But yeah, it's a great album, dude. Like I really wish I would have seen that show that I'm sure they were gonna, that was what that tour was for, you know, like I'm sure that's what it was for. So yeah. Man,
they would have hit 3 or 4 songs. There would have been at least 3 or 4 from this album that they would have hit, and that would have been great. It's really interesting to me though that you talk about like it sounds like you think they were very purposeful in the sound that they created. And the impression that I get from them is that they're like, we just get together and we jam, and then we, whatever we can piece together, that's cool. And we're like, oh, that's dope. And oh yeah, you should do that. I'll do this. And they make it sound sort of, like, oh, it's just so organic.
Yeah.
But the end result sounds like it had an extreme purpose and tons of planning and hella precision. How does that, as somebody who's in the environment, both as recording other people and in a live band, you've been in these different environments. Tell me how they're moving from just jamming on different riffs or different takes and creating different sounds to piecing together this thing that they've created. That's this fully, like, from front to back, informed and flowing. Like there's no moment wasted on the album, right? Like how do you get there?
I think it just comes with experience, dude. Just like with anything, like they've been doing it for so long that I'm sure that they can just get into a room and just really just knock out some jams. Because as like someone that has recorded bands and recorded my own music, what you want to do is like you would just kind of just pump stuff out, and then you pump out like 100 songs. Out of those 100 songs, I'm sure like 30 of them are good, and out of those 30, I'm pretty sure like 12 of those are bangers. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's just like eventually it becomes like with any band, becomes like almost like a machine where you kind of know what you want, what kind of thing your band's kind of going for. So no, I just think it comes with experience, man. Like the way that they did it, because it does definitely sound organic, like as if they weren't even like really trying to write badass shit. They're just kind of like, we're doing it. This is it. That's dope. Let's go. You know what I mean? Like it just sounds. That album is a very organic album.
Yeah, I realize it takes like a lot of balls to say it, but it's my favorite. Like it's got it all. Everybody's at the forefront. They're all, there are plenty of great moments. There are great songs. Everything is so interesting. It's just, but then like I said, I'll go back and I'll be like, but Be Quiet and Drive is my favorite song of all time. So how could I just ignore, you know what I mean? Like the greatness of Around the Fur. It's like that, you know what I mean?
In a way, Ohms kind of gives me the same vibe as like the self-titled, where it was almost like the hip hop album, like as you said before. Like it's very like, I think it's like really groovy in the sense of like not like groovy, like heavy groovy, but like there's a lot of like, like you just kind of like vibe and just listen to it and let it like kind of take you away. Then that's what I get when I listen to self-titled. Like that album is very like, at some parts where it's like you just kind of have to sit back and let it take you away and soar with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, it's a dance record. I think Ohms is one that's just meant to make you move your ass. But there's like obviously moments that you're not dancing, but that's what makes it so interesting. And
definitely.
So the way I like to conclude every interview is with a request for recommendations. And that's inspired by something that Chino said on a podcast, that the only reason that he tweets out links to music on YouTube is because he thinks that's the coolest shit that he could share with people, is the shit he likes, the music that he likes. So put me on to 3 things. It doesn't have to be music. It could be anything in the world. It could be old. It could be new. It could be anything that you think is dope that people should check out. 3 things. What do you got?
If you're from California and you're from the greater Los Angeles area, I think you should go to Pots and Woks in Whittier, California. It is the absolute best vegan Chinese food that I've ever had in my entire life. And if you want to go there and eat all the food and hate yourself after it, you go there. And it's absolutely amazing. My second recommendation, I would say check out Painful Days. This is my buddy's his clothing brand. He just does like some cool ass shit. Shout out to Shady and all of his people. And my third recommendation is like floss your teeth, dude. That's so accurate. You're a flosser, you could tell, man.
I don't know. My just might be separating because I haven't gone to the dentist in a minute.
No, man. You know what? I don't think people floss their teeth enough, and I really wish everyone would. And I think people would really like it. I think they would have a better outlook on life if they floss their teeth every day.
That is literally the most sound and solid recommendation that has been made on this podcast.
Yo, and a tongue scraper. Get a tongue scraper too, dude.
Fucking hey, that's what's up.
Yeah,
You gotta-
floss your teeth and scrape that tongue, dude. That's that's like one thing I wish everyone on this planet would do, bro.
That's right, man. Floss your teeth and scrub your tongue. Okay, this is super cool. I caught up with Andrew for a little bit recently, and we talked about everything he's been up to lately. Andrew, what are you doing?
Just working on some stuff and trying to stay busy, you know?
You look like you've been busy.
Yeah, I'm trying. I mean, I quit my full-time job to, you know, as you know, to like do music pretty much full-time. So it's been a wild ride, to say the least.
Talk about it.
Well, when you have a job, there's like security, you know what I mean? Like you have a paycheck every 2 weeks or whatever. With this, it's like, oh, cool. You get like, you know, 3 days booked with a band and you work with them. And then 3 days booked, you get however much money. But like, it's not just those 3 days you're working. It's like you're doing like clerical work to like, you know, do any edits you need to do or whatever, or and then like you're mixing, and then like you're like comping vocals, and you know, if you have to reamp guitars, you have to do that shit. So you're looking at like, you got paid for 3 days of work, but you're really working on a project for like 2 or 3 weeks, you know what I mean, depending on how, like what else you got going on. So it can get a little like overwhelming, you know. Like I have like projects that I'm working on right now that I'm still trying to catch up on, you know, like since I quit my job. So, and like having a full-time job really kind of like affected my I guess turnaround. So now that I don't have a full-time job, it's a lot easier to be able to get some projects finished. But now it's there's more projects, so it's like it's just constantly trying to catch up with work. But I mean, I always try to like ground myself and be like, you know what, dude, like I'm like making music full time, you know what I mean? So it's kind of dope. So I try not to complain too much.
It's hard though when you have so many different types of things to do. You know what I mean? Because you're never, when you're doing everything, like it's never just like, all right, I'm doing this artistic thing. I mean, there might be artistic elements in the other things that you're doing, but like, you know, booking the space versus actually doing the recording versus actually like mixing versus actually like those are all different types of work, and that makes it hard to stay present for any of them because you're thinking about the other stuff that you got to do, right? Like you're constantly doing all these things at once.
Yeah, and also I'm still playing in like a couple bands, and like, you know, I have an apartment with my girl, and like, you know, I got to spend time with my girlfriend. I love spending time with my girlfriend. Like she's like the only person I want to hang out with. So like I make time to do that. And, you know, and sometimes there's like just like a bunch of sacrifices you have to make all around. Totally. It's like, well, okay, like I got this book this week, this book this week. And like, I also do live sound at a bar on the weekends to like, you know, to make ends meet. So like all my weekends, like from like 7:30 to like 2 a.m. are just like, that's like, that's like, I have to set aside time for that because I just got to make some extra cash, you know? So
yeah, totally.
It's just
all of that is great. All of that is great, but that's everything. Like that's it's all the time. It's nonstop.
Dude, I swear to God, dude, I feel like the last 2 or 3 months have like, I like close my eyes and it's like, oh fuck, it's May. You know what I mean? Like, like I'm literally gonna be 30 next week or this coming Sunday. So it's like, dude, like it felt like it was just December, like 5 minutes ago. So,
but this is cool.
It's been wild.
It's cool to see, especially since I don't even remember now when we spoke. Was it in 21? Was it in 20 or 21 when we first spoke?
Yeah, it was like February, I think. Like
yes, it was around Valentine's Day. Yes, it was around Valentine's Day. That's right.
I think it was Valentine's Day actually. The day
was it actually? Oh, that's right.
Yeah, because like I like was like, yeah, like my girlfriend got me this like body scrub or something like that.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's crazy. Yeah. Cause I mean,
Yeah.
even in that amount of time though, and just because we haven't really gotten a space to face time to chat, but just in the little bit of that we've spoke like in messaging and then just seeing what you're doing, what you've done in that past, whatever that is, 14 months. Like
Yeah.
it's been cool. It's been really cool to just watch everything that you've done. And specifically, I want to make sure that we touch on Despise You, because I know you're going to play some shows soon, right?
Yeah. Yeah. We actually got a show this Sunday. I don't know when this will go up, but we're playing with Converge on Sunday in Austin, Texas. So
Dude.
pretty cool. I'm excited. This is our first gig since January 2000, January 2020. So, we haven't like played any live gigs or anything. And this specific gig got pushed back like 2 or 3 times or something like that. And then maybe a couple months ago they announced, okay, here's a date. And then like it's also going to be kind of a rager too, because it's actually like the day that I turned 30. So like we're gonna like all like
Oh
hang
my
out,
God.
party. My girlfriend's coming with me, so it's gonna be super fucking fun.
That's so dope. Have you
Yeah.
played with Converge before? Have you ever played a show with them
No,
before?
dude, I'm actually like really pumped because like I'm a huge fan of Kurt Ballou, like and like all the work that he does, like and all the bands that he records. So like for us to like be like a direct support headliner or whatever you want to call it for this specific show at this festival, it's like pretty cool, because it's not like when you're like in like a local band, you're playing with the big band. Like I feel like the big bands always kind of like just skim over like the local band names or whatever. But it's like it's just us, some other band opening. I think that they're called like Vomit Tomb or Vomit Witch or something. I forgot. And then Converge. So it's like they know we're playing, and it's like it's super cool. It's like I'm fucking pumped. It's gonna be really fun.
I saw that. I was like, dude, that's sick.
Yeah,
That's
man,
sick.
it's gonna be dope. I'm
Not just for
excited.
them, but for you, like for those your two bands to be on that, but like that's good. That's gonna be a rip roaring good time.
Yeah, man. I can't wait. I can't wait. It's
And your
gonna be a good
birthday.
birthday.
How sick
Yeah.
is that? Like that's
Yeah, it's
so rad.
gonna be good,
Um,
man.
and I also want to make sure that we talk about Blood Moves Slow,
Hmm.
dude. Like,
Yeah.
so that's you top to bottom, right? You did everything.
Yeah, I did. Uh I started that project um maybe like at the very, very beginning of like the first initial lockdown in March 2020 or whatever. And like I had nothing to do. And I had this like a ton of riffs, like a couple like a band that I was doing. I kind of like lost interest, and um I literally just sat in my room and just like recorded everything on my own. Like I programmed drums. I maybe recorded those songs, and like there's like different versions of them, like maybe like 10 times, just because I wanted them to sound cool. But yeah, literally everything is me. I did the vocals, I did all the production, like the guitars, like everything, like top to bottom was all me.
It was so cool when you dropped it too, and I feel like you said something like, "Yeah, I just wanted to put out some super heavy shit," and I was like, "This is some super heavy shit."
Yeah, dude. I sent it to my buddy Taylor, and he was like, dude, this is like audio cocaine. Like, I don't even know what's like how to like. He's like, if you're not paying attention, you're gonna miss so many like cool things in this. And I was like, well, that's cool, like to hear, like, because my whole goal with this was to be as like abrasive as I possibly could. Like, I
Yeah.
wasn't like very focused on like I don't know like replayability or anything like that. I was just kind of like, I just want to make some crazy shit, like I love like Slipknot, I love like Bury Your Dead, and I love like Vane, and like all those bands. I was like, dude, I just want to put all this shit together and like just make one fucking crazy ass fucking band, like.
That's so
So
cool.
yeah, and I listen to it now, like, and like the way that I like recorded it, it just like gives me anxiety because it's just so crazy, you know.
It gives you anxiety. I mean, it's a little anxiety inducing. It, like you said, it's abrasive. There's no
Yeah,
doubt about it. But I
totally.
think that was sick. Like I think if that was the point, and
Yeah,
you achieved that. Like it's I remember when you dropped it and I put it on, I was like, just like, fuck, it's really cool too that you just were like, this is what I want to create.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah. I
you
mean,
set out to do it and you did it. Like that's sick.
yeah, man. Like, I don't know. Like there was no one telling me like, oh, I don't like this idea or that idea. It was just kind of me just being like, all right, fuck it. Like, I'm gonna
But it
do
all
this.
ties into like what your life is now, right? Like that what your life, the life that you were set out to create for yourself, where you're making music
Right.
like from sun up to sundown and then some. Like that's where
Yeah.
you're at. That's pretty rad.
And it's funny too, because one of those songs, what song is it? It's the second song on the fucking EP or whatever you want to call it. It was um it's about like me like transitioning my life to like this, like there's a line in the song where it's like it's these are the remnants of a past life, and it's just me kind of talking about like how I'm kind of like just moving on to something else, which is like kind of weird because I didn't intend it to be like that. It was just kind of me just writing fucking lyrics, like I wasn't really thinking
That's
about
cool
it,
though.
but I look back at it and it's like, oh, it kind of like makes sense in a weird way that I didn't think about.
Yeah. Well, that happens, right? Like that's art.
Yeah, yeah, it's just fucking happens.
That's super dope, man.
Yeah, man.
It's kick ass. It's been kick ass to see how it's all been going down for you and how everything seems to be like finding the groove. Just seeing you active so much, and I don't know. It seems like you're working with you're working steady too, like producing and recording. Are there some really kick ass bands that
uh
you've worked some projects that you wanna name drop?
yeah, so there's this band called Desmadre that's like they're
What is it?
fucking Desmadre.
Desmadre.
They're like they're like my homies from like years ago. I used to play in a band with them called Frostbite, and like my homie Chucky, who's like the dude that writes everything for that band, he like always like kind of wants me to be involved with his projects. And like I was in Frostbite and like he asked me to like, record Frostbite. That didn't work. And one day I was just kind of like, dude, like you should just start a new band. Like Frostbite's not really working out. So he ended up starting This Madre, and like This Madre kind of like blew up. And like, you know, how TikTok works. Like if there's like one funny video, it's just all over the place all of a sudden. So like they
Yeah.
started doing shit on TikTok, and
That's
um
awesome.
and they got like a weird like funny cholo, not funny, but it's just like it's their aesthetic is they have like a cholo aesthetic. Like my homie Carlos like has like a clown nose on and like some locs, and he's wearing like a button up tee, and they're all gonna it's fucking cool. Like you don't really see that in like hardcore, you know what I mean, where you're like intentionally just like being so they're just going all in on it. And I've done a couple singles for them, and it seems like every single that I've done for them has like been getting more plays, and has been getting like getting around more on like social media and stuff. And um like the recordings, like the mixes that I'm doing are sounding like way better and every single time. So that's really fucking cool. I worked with another band called Hyper Psychic that they have a demo coming out. They haven't like put anything out lately or before that, but that's coming out, and that's cool. Been working with this dude Nathan James. He's kind of like a new metal, like dark pop type thing. And
Okay.
we worked on a track together, and funny enough, I'm producing the track, and our main reference for the song is RX by Deftones.
Oh,
And
word.
yeah, like that was like what we like referenced. Like we're like, dude, we need to make a fucking sexy song like this.
Hell yeah.
And we did it, and we're still working on it, but it's pretty cool. Like he's pretty fucking stoked, and he's got like a good like following. And um yeah, it's pretty cool. So I've been like pretty fucking busy. I also work with a producer named Colin Britton, and he is Papa Roach's producer. And I worked on a Papa Roach song pretty recently, which
Get the
is like
fuck out of
pretty
here.
it was just like pretty funny. Yeah, like if you would have told me in fucking, I don't know, like elementary school, like, hey, when you're 29 you're gonna work on a Papa Roach song, like a new Papa Roach song, I would have called you crazy. But yeah, like I've been doing sessions with this guy, and like I've met a lot of fucking cool people through him, and his engineer Kevin kind of like, took me under his wing, and he kind of vouched for me, so I kind of somehow also within the realm of like hardcore and like death metal, like been trying to do that, but also somehow ended up in like the mainstream pop world with these two guys. So it's like
Yeah,
it's been a weird fucking year, dude. Like there's just like a lot of shit has just like happened.
that's
And
so sick.
yeah, like getting that gig kind of like changed my perspective on like how like not just how this job is, but like just how like the industry works as like a whole, like it's just it's the perspective I have just completely just changed. I thought I was just pressing record and then making it sound cool, but it's like there's so much more to it than just that.
Yeah, I suppose as you expand your network and you get to know more people, you get different insight, right?
Yeah.
You just get different types of their experiences and taking a little bit of. I would suppose you're probably gonna need to hook me up with Jacoby though. That would be so sick to get him
Oh,
on
dude,
this podcast, dog.
it's so funny because I hung out with him for like an hour, like in the kitchen at this recording studio that they were doing a session at, and I was wearing my Deftones like bootleg t-shirt, and he was like, "Man, dude, like I fucking love your shirt." And Deftones is literally like my favorite band ever. Like if there's anyone that's influenced me like as a vocalist more, it's Chino. And I'm like, no
Fuck out of
fucking
here.
way. I
That
swear to God,
rules.
dude. It was really cool. And then we're just talking about like everything from like we started talking like talking about death metal and like black metal and like grindcore and like punk. Like we started talking about all this stuff, and he's like a super like humble guy. You know what I mean? I was wearing
Yeah.
like an Assuck fucking hoodie, and he was like, "Assuck sick," and I was like, "Oh shit, this guy kind of knows what's up." But it was just really funny because I was just telling him like, yeah, Deftones is like one of my favorite bands, like like top three, and he was like, yeah, dude, like that's like probably my favorite band too. Like,
Oh, that
yeah,
rules.
it was just kind of dope. It was really really cool.
I've been in touch with him via email a couple of times because my homie Pablo, that is the afternoon jock at one of the stations I work
Mhm.
at 93X. He's been on this podcast. He connected me with Jacoby because they go back a number of years or whatever. But um, he said he was down to do the pod, but he missed me, I guess, on the second or third. Hey, bro, email.
Oh, dude.
he just he just didn't get, he's I get it. I've been rock starred plenty of times. It's not a big
Oh
deal.
yeah.
But
But
it would be sick
he's
because they go back. Like they go hella like
yeah.
he's from the Bay, right?
Yeah, like
I think
Sacramento.
he
I
might
think they're
yeah, he
from
is
that
from
area too.
Sacramento.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, he's like super like humble, like that guy. Like
Yeah.
I didn't expect it. Like,
Well, he actually replied to my email, so I was like, okay, this is the dude. I figure he's just busy. He's just a busy
yeah,
guy. I
I mean,
definitely don't mean to suggest that he's like too big for
no,
his
yeah,
britches or
for
anything
sure.
like that. But
Yeah, there are definitely people like that, but like from like the hour that I spent with him, like he just seems like super cool. Like he even asked me like, "Oh, what is it you're working on? Like what kind of shit do you do?" And like Colin, he was just like, "Oh, dude, this is Andrew. He's like a metal producer." He's like, "Oh, fuck yeah, fucking sick." Like he's like super into it, and like he'll ask you questions about like what you're doing or asking like what you're doing and stuff like that. So he's really cool. I liked hanging out with him a lot. I didn't expect him to be that cool.
that's rad. That's super.
Yeah.
I think that's maybe the highest compliment that you could pay somebody, right? Like I didn't expect you to be this cool.
Well, like, it's like you see like someone on like TV, I remember like being in elementary school and seeing Last Resort and just like
For
fucking
sure.
rocking out. And then like, you know, thinking like, oh dude, they're like worlds away from me. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I'm never gonna meet this guy. And then like it finally happens and it's like, oh, like I know who you are already, and like I know what you do, and you're fucking cool. Like, that's like, yeah, like
Yeah.
not to say that he wasn't cool and like before I thought he was cool, but like, it's just like you don't expect it.
Well, there's so much left up to. I mean, we really have to draw conclusions about the people that we see in on public platforms, like
Right.
with any big band who's had
Yeah.
a mega hit for sure. You only
Yeah.
get these little snippets of of who they are, and a lot of times that is a character. And then so you
Yeah.
fill in the gaps with, well, this person might be a clown, or this person
Yeah.
looks like an asshole, or whatever. Like I'm sure
Yeah.
Maynard is probably kind of a dick, but I'm sure he's also kind of a genius, and I'm sure that there's a lot of other things about him that I don't know a thing about. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
For any person, but it is definitely, I can, on the other end of that, like getting that that like validation and like, oh yeah, this person is dope.
Yeah,
Like just to be, that's super cool.
Yeah, yeah, it was cool. Like, but yeah, being a part of that world was not something that like I ever would have imagined in like a million fucking years, dude.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's pretty cool. You know, I'm just a dude, you know, from LA, like that grew up with like nothing, and like my mom working hard, and it's like I told my mom about it, and she was like, "Isn't that the Last Resort?" Like she doesn't know the song, but she knows the song. I was like, "Yeah," and she's like, "Dude, what the hell?" And you know, it's just all like this weird, dude.
That's so sick.
You know,
that's
bizarre.
So sick. But that sounds like the universe telling you to stay on that path and keep doing that thing, right? Like,
yeah,
that's pretty cool.
That's just how I take it. Like,
you got to.
Yeah, and like, you know, these opportunities come up, and if you're not like smart enough to know, I wouldn't say smart enough, but like if you can't be aware of the opportunities that come up, like if you can't recognize an opportunity when it comes up, like it's that's kind of like a skill within itself almost, you know.
No
like
shit. Yeah,
you know, because there's been times where like I look back on something, I'm like, oh dude, like I wonder how like different that could have been if I actually would have like just asked a question about that one thing from years ago, you know. But
totally.
you know, if like, yeah, and also too, if you're making these opportunities for yourself by being in like the room with these people, and like you're not talking to these people, then like you're also like messing up, you know. Like you just gotta
paying attention.
Gotta do it. Yeah, you gotta be aware, man. You gotta be on your toes, and you know, you gotta also know when to shut the fuck up too.
Yeah, that's dude. I have one. Where is it? It's probably lost. That's why I'm not following the directions very well. I've got like one little reminder to myself. It's all lost under my shit here. It's like a card. It just says shut the fuck up on it. Like it's like a business card size thing. It just says shut up, stop talking, or something like that. Fuck,
yeah,
man, I have a mess. But yeah, that's the truth. You got to know when to shut the
dude,
fuck up.
for real. Like sometimes you just gotta like be like a fly on the wall and just watch and listen, and then speak when you're spoken to, and just shut the fuck up.
That's cool that you have that you put yourself in that position. That's super dope. And you also you mentioned to me once that you I don't know if it was a couple of months ago that you like ran into somebody who might have been the graphic designer for Adrenaline.
Yeah, so at the bar that I do sound at, there's a bartender. His name is Sean. He's an older gentleman. He's a graphic designer from like the 90s, and he's been doing it forever. And he's also like a teacher as well, and he teaches graphic design. And when I started working there and like getting to know everybody, you know, he used to be like an A&R, like a record label and stuff. And I forgot how it came up. I think someone else that works there was talking about music, and I brought up how like Deftones was like one of my favorite bands. And then the other sound person that was like kind of like showing me stuff, she was like, "Oh dude, Sean actually like did, you know, the Adrenaline album cover." And he was like, "Yeah, like I did it like a long time ago." He's like, "It's uncredited. Like I never got credit for it," which is like fine, you know, like he didn't I don't think anybody expected it to like for that band.
Sort of normal.
Yeah, you know, like it happens.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's like tons and tons of uncredited album covers out there. And I just asked, I was like, "Wait, what the fuck, dude? Like you did that?" He's like, "Yeah, like I did it a long time ago." I was like, "Wait, what?" Like
that's how I feel. I'm like, what?
Yeah, I was like, "Wait, like how did this just happen right now?" Like you're just kind of like, "Yeah, like I did that," and I'm kind of like, "Dude, that's fucking badass," you know what I mean? But he's just like a normal guy, you know, like he's not like a rocker. He's just like a dude that likes, you know, classic rock and will listen to something once, and like just a normal like older white guy. And
Yeah.
he did that, and I was like, dude, you gotta talk to my buddy about his,
Yeah,
you know, on
dude.
his podcast, because he would fucking love to hear that. And
Yeah, I
he
got
was
all
like,
sorts of questions. All
yeah,
sorts of questions.
he's also like brought up a couple, like I think he's got a couple stories about like Deftones as well. And I think you would really enjoy talking to him. He's a great guy, really good
That's
guy.
cool. Yeah, definitely. We'll see if we can get him on season 4, season 5. I've sort of been kicking around this idea of doing an OnlyFans season. Not where I'm gonna like take my titties out or anything like that, but like
Oh,
where
dude,
I
come
just
on.
do where I just do you know, conversations with like fans from sort of different professions or different experiences. And I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how the podcast, the future of the podcast is still TBD, but
Yeah.
it would be cool to get more. I'm always excited to hear like the history stuff. You know what I mean?
Oh
Like
yeah.
that sort of stuff. Even if it's just like the the dude who went uncredited as the adrenaline graphic designer. Like that's fucking cool. Like
Yeah,
that's awesome.
and who knows, man? Like what if like he does do like an episode, and then like Chino or something hears it and he's like, "Oh fuck, I remember that." You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
that
totally.
would be even like cooler, you know?
It would be a lot better than the Peter Steele story that's floating around. I'm sure like Chino hates my guts at this point because the only news that floats around is how Peter Steele fucking knocked him out at a show. Like that's the only one that seems to
Oh,
be catching. Well, but whatever. I mean, I'm just here to bring the stories to the people. I'm not creating the
yeah,
stories.
you're just talking, man.
I'm just holding up the mirror, man. That's it. That's all I'm trying to
totally.
do.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fucking awesome, dude. This is super rad. I think. Well, is there anything else we should talk about? Anything else we should make sure that we mention?
I think I mentioned last time where there was a death metal band called Apparition. Um, I ended up like joining that band again, because so when that band first started, I was like the original bass player or whatever, and within the last like 6 months or something or whatever, like 6 or 8 months, uh, I ended up joining the band again with my homie Taylor, who also like played in like Nails, and he plays in God's Hate and Twitching Tongues. Um, we both joined the band at the same time, and we like that band had an album come out on Profound Lore, and like it's been like really cool. Like we've been getting like, you know, we were in like Decibel magazine like as like the top in the top like 20 records of 2021, and we're like number 4
Get
or
the
something
fuck
like
out of
that.
here.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I mean, I'm not on the record at all. That all goes to my friends Miles and Andrew, who like write everything. Like
Yeah,
they're geniuses, and like Taylor produced the record and like mixed it and recorded it and did all that stuff. And I'm just kind of like chilling on the sidelines, like, dang, like you guys are working real hard over there,
are
dude.
you playing? What are you playing in the band?
I play guitar in this band now, this time around. I was playing bass originally. Now I play guitar.
That's
Yeah.
so cool.
Yeah, man. So that's happened since the last time we talked as
So
well.
are you guys planning to are you going to write with any of their future songs, or is that what's the plan? What's the Apparition plan?
So like Miles and Andrew kind of already have that taken care of, and I'm okay with it. Like I'm not like one of
Yeah.
those guys like, no, I need to be involved and
Yeah,
this and
yeah.
that.
You
Like,
got enough cooking, frankly. You don't need
yeah,
to
you
do any
know,
more writing or anything more
yeah,
like,
like
yeah.
I
What
I'm
do I
in.
play? Do I need to
Yeah,
play this? All right, I got it.
what's
That
the
sounds
riff? One, two,
dope.
three, four. Okay, I got it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So like I'm totally down for them to do their thing, and uh if they want my input, like I'm also open to just giving them my input as
Sure.
well. And Taylor's on the same boat. Like we're just kind of like, you know, and Taylor's gonna record the record too, so he's already got his hand pretty deep in that
Yeah.
bucket, you know. So uh but yeah, I mean they got, you know, Miles was like right before this interview, Miles was in my studio because he works like around the corner, and he was in here just stopping by just to say hi. And like he was just telling me, he was like, dude, we have like 3 new songs already. So they got new music. And
Sick.
we got a gig with Demolic, which is like a really crazy death metal band from, I don't remember. I'm not super into the band, but I know that they're pretty big. And I know like Taylor and Miles and they're like super into it. So we got a gig with that band coming up, so that's gonna be pretty cool. But we also have like a run that we're trying to do, and yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, man. I told myself I didn't want to like do any more band stuff, but here it comes.
Well,
Yeah.
that's cool. It's all part of the life, man. You're doing it. Like that's what's up. Like you've put yourself in a position to where you can do all of these things. So fucking swing for the fences, right? Like why not go after all of it if it's there for you?
And to be honest, like I like ever since like since last time we talked, my sister passed away, and she was only 2 years older than me, and there was like so much stuff that she didn't like get to do, and so much stuff that she wanted to do, where like the last year I was just kind of like, dude, like why am I like just like waiting for stuff to happen, or why am I just kind of like not doing anything, which is like that was like a big reason why like I just decided to like up and leave my job where I was making pretty good money. Like I left security to like be more fulfilled, and whether I'm like financially stable or not, I'm like kind of glad that I'm not working at that job anymore, wasting my time. So like when an opportunity comes up, I kind of just do it, and I'm just kind of like, yeah, fuck it, dude, because if it works out, it works out. If it doesn't work out, at least I tried. Like I could literally die tomorrow, so I'm not gonna think too much about it. If I want to do it, I'm just gonna fucking do it.
Andrew Solis, look for him soon in liner notes near you. And if you're a musician, you're in LA, you're looking to record, you want a bad motherfucker on the board, look no further, man. Thank you, Andrew. It's been an absolute pleasure getting to know you and watching your star rise. I'm rooting for you, man. Well, that's it for today. If you're looking for somebody to talk about Deftones with, you know how to find me. I'm at Woodbruh on Twitter and Instagram. You can hear me every weekday cracking jokes and playing Minnesota's classic rock on 92 KQRS here in Minneapolis, and every Saturday night from 10 to midnight playing extremely heavy music on 93X. No, I do not play Deftones on classic rock radio, but I do play Deftones on Saturday nights, so tune in, 93x.com. I'm going to send you off with a little bit more from Andrew. This is the title track from Blood Moves Slow. Look him up on Bandcamp. Thank you for listening to Deftones, and thank you for listening to Change in the House of Pods.